Welcome to the Monday, November 16th, 2020 meeting of the Dennis-Yarmouth Regional School Committee. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're going to start the meeting tonight with opening remarks addressing racism by any members of the school committee who would like to make such remarks. I need to know if Joe Glynn, member of the school committee, is on the Zoom call at this time. Joe, can you please indicate by raising your hand? Again, Joe Glynn, if you're on the Zoom, can you please raise your hand? Bear with us as we deal with some new technology here tonight for this meeting so that we can have some members of the public here in person and we can meet in person, but also have participation via Zoom. I was going to start with Joe Glynn, the remarks, as he is the first on the panel. Since he's not here, Phil Morris, would you like to make any remarks?
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Phil Morris, and my family moved to Dennis-Yarmouth in 1971 after having lived 2 years up in North Rural to the Air Force. My family has grown up here. My kids, of course, like so many of our youth, college degrees, other MBAs, and now we're looking way off. But they're successful young adults, and I know a lot of the UI system, which is why I have been spending many meetings in support. And I've also joined the community in a number of organizations and met many good people who have been good friends and mentors. And one of the things I have learned is to listen. As one of my friends taught me when I began to get to know people in Hyannis, gentleman was a member of the minority community, but grew up from the Cape. And he relayed stories, we swapped stories, we told jokes. And one of the things that stuck with me was a story of walking down Main Street in Hyannis as a young man in the height of the tourist season, and people seeing a black man on the sidewalk in downtown. And as the cars went by, you could hear the creak of the door lock. And those types of things that I would never have thought without being taught what it was like to be somebody else from another community. And that ties in with my support of public education. It's to broaden our horizons and broaden our understanding and to teach the young people in that community and of all of us. I think of myself as a young person I grew up. But the idea is we bring a diversity of folks, comments, qualities, and emotions with us, and we share it. So to me, the lesson of diversity is being open. Instead of standing my ground and defend, I stand my ground and reveal, and I make it safe for others to do the same. So enough said about my opinion of diversity. You the chair back to the agenda.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. At
past 9 months have been crazy and very trying, to say the least, with the COVID epidemic, elections, riots. Our country's been turned upside down. In these trying times, out of sadness can come hope and enlightenment. The anti-racial movements have put racial injustice and diversion on the forefront. Racism has been a sad part of the American culture since its inception of this country. 2020 has given us the chance to realize and reform and be able to reform the unjust ways. We have a very long way to go. As I've stated before, I would rather have a face-to-face conversation with any of you than a telephone call. However, a phone call is better than using social media as a platform. The one-dimensional statements and questions can be misinterpreted very easily. One comment can create a firestorm in anger. We are not one-dimensional people. Racism in our schools cannot be tolerated. Racism in our community cannot be tolerated. And racism on this board cannot be tolerated. The school committee has a policy on ethics. I feel that we all need to read over this policy and adhere to it. In fact, there are 2 full binders, one from the state and one from the district, that are given to each one of the members of this committee as guidance. And I recommend to this board that we review sections of these binders as a group. I am happy that this committee had established a subcommittee on diversion and inclusion. Just like other subcommittees, it is only good as what is done with it. It's up to each one of us to create a community of equals. In conclusion, I'd like to leave with you a quote from Audre Lorde, a civil rights activist and American writer. It is not our differences that divide us. It's our inability to recognize, accept, and celebrate those differences. I don't know about you, but I'm starting to get sick and tired of this divide. We need a little more acceptance and a lot more celebration. Thank you.
Brian.
Thank you, Dan. Another smart joke, right? Okay. It's just me. I apologize. Hold on 1 second. Unmute. I knew that. Brian Carey, DYRSD Committee, liaison to the town of Dennis. What I said was, I'm not as smart as you to prepare a statement. I usually just speak, I guess, from my heart and off the cuff. The one thing that I think is important is that this is an incredibly important topic that our country and our Commonwealth and our school district faces on a regular basis. One thing I think is very important is that we know firsthand that the reason we are having this meeting tonight and the reason this topic is on the agenda is not because one of our students, not because of one of our staff members, but because of a comment that was made on social media that has brought the attention to a lot of people who are not in favor or are calling out those comments. We live in a world where the First Amendment right is freedom of speech, and we're allowed to say what we want, hypothetically. That does not mean that you're not held to a different standard or you're not held accountable for those statements. And one thing that I have always prided myself on is that as a member of an elected board who puts myself out there to be in public and be held accountable, as I hold myself to the same standards that I think our students and our staff members should be held to. And that's an important distinction, that even though I have the right to say what I want to say, does not mean that people will not disagree with me or hold me accountable for those statements. And I think that's something that I take very serious. The comments that I've heard recently are disturbing to me as an individual, disturbing to very, very many others of and it doesn't matter what race you are, I think they are disturbing. And I think that this board should not tolerate them, although I think our ability to do anything about them is very limited. One thing that I know is for sure is that all committee members need training, and that training needs to start with the newest members, and I think it's very important. Racial comments that divide us should not be stood for, and we have to stand against them. And I applaud the community for standing up and bringing these comments to the forefront, so that we can try to deal with them on a daily basis. The one thing that I'm very disappointed about is that we're missing 2 members tonight. And I think those 2 members should be given an opportunity at a future meeting to address this issue. Just because they're not here tonight doesn't mean they get to avoid the topic. And I think that's very, very important. You know what? Somebody said to me one time that uncomfortable meetings are held and people show up for them. This is an uncomfortable topic, but here we sit, most of us. I think those who are not here should get the opportunity to speak to it. And that's all I have for now. Thank you.
My name is Jim Dykeman. I'm a dentist representative to the school committee, and I'm basically at a loss for words. In my opinion, there's no place in our society or community for racism. I speak for myself, and as a committee member, the only other person that can speak for us as a group is the chairperson. I think what happened is unfortunate, and it's probably a lesson for all of us to be very careful and think about what we say. Thank you.
It's disappointing and saddening, disheartening, but not surprising that we have to sit up here tonight and that I have to put on an agenda this item, and that we have to sit up here and, you know, tell people out loud that we don't tolerate racism. We live in a country where national leadership has emboldened racists, misogynists, homophobes, to anti-Semites. We sit here tonight, as you've heard, as a committee, minus 2 members, as Brian pointed out, to tell you that we don't tolerate racism. I don't tolerate racism personally. I'm not raising my son. I am raising my son to be a tolerant, embracing of all, kind human being. I serve on the Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Committee at my workplace. And in July, sorry about the technical complications here. In July, when we were a newly reconstituted committee, I created a subcommittee on diversity and inclusion. I appointed 2 members of this committee to that subcommittee, and since July, I've been working to put together a charter and a plan for that committee to liaise with other school districts to find out about their committee, their work, and the makeup of their subcommittees. And I've also been working to meet and appoint members of our community to join members of this committee on the subcommittee for diversity and inclusion. Our hands are tied as a committee in terms of any action we can take when a member of this committee or a member of the community makes comments on social media, racist comments on social media, perceived by the community and members of this committee to be racist. We are elected officials. Everyone, all the voters in Dennis-Yarmouth have the right to elect their representatives to this committee. If you don't have a voice during public comment, or that's not when you're comfortable, or if you don't want to email us or comment to us or write to us, call us, have a meeting with us, you have a voice at the ballot box when you vote for the members of this committee. I look forward later in the meeting to talking to you about the Diversity and Inclusion Committee, but I think we should just move on with the meeting at this point and know that racism is not tolerated, nor is sexism, bigotry, anti-Semitism, homophobia, discrimination based on any protected class, gender, disability, race, ethnicity, age. We're not going to tolerate it. I don't tolerate it personally, and we're not going to tolerate it as a committee. And not just, we're not going to tolerate it. We're going to do everything we can proactively to educate ourselves and our community and to put together programs to further educate this community. Thank you. We're going to move on to the next item, which is a report from our student representative. Did the light come on? Hold that little button until the light comes on.
Good. So, DY High School, our experience this week is off to a successful start with both students and teachers dressed up in person. Avengers, and we played DC superhero musics like Wonder Woman, and we also did Power Rangers, even though it's not DC or Marvel. And we will continue doing that throughout the rest of the week to bring up the morale. And as we head into the winter season, the school is slowly and safely allowing students to remain in the building after school with close monitoring and social distancing. And a lot more activities are opening up, but in a very strategic way that we can socially distance and contact trace as well. Besides that, not too much has been new.
Thank you very much. Any reports from liaisons to the Board of Selectmen? Brian?
Yes. Tonight is the last night for any interested party from the town of Dennis who would like to nominate yourself for my seat on the school committee, so that the Board of Selectmen of Dennis can fill this seat that I am vacating, probably by the end of the year. This year, not 2021.
Thank you. Any report for Yarmouth? All right, building committee report. Joe, anything tonight?
Thank you, Jen.
You're muted.
Not really.
Unmute on the Zoom.
It will not be me, but yeah, it is. It says the host is not allowed participants. So we let themselves. That better? Okay, I think that's on now. Yeah, thank you. But we don't really have much of an update from the building committee. They were here last meeting and did a great presentation on where we are. We do have a scheduled Zoom meeting this Thursday at 4:30, and we're going to be submitting the 90% design phase to the MSBA, so we have to vote on that. So that's one of the big things that we're going to get. But I'll have a better update for you next meeting. But that's about all I have. Thank you.
Jenny?
Right?
I do believe the Tracy's out there in the audience. Town meeting tomorrow night here in this building, 7 o'clock? 6 o'clock in this building.
Yarmouth.
Yeah, I'm at the town meeting. Sorry for interrupting.
No, that was good. Good reminder. Thank you. Assistant superintendent's report. Can't see where Mr. Jenks is. Doesn't look like he has a report up there. Superintendent's report, please. All right, hold on. I sent you a message. Did you get it? I'm clicking ask to unmute.
Okay,
Madam
Take
Chair, when you have a
I think I'm good now, but I'm not sure the microphone works. Hello?
Take mine. I won't need it much longer.
liaison report. Please, if you have a chance.
Thank you.
I don't have a really big report tonight. Primarily, I wanted to just make sure that the public knows that, yes, we've had a few students in our school district that have experienced COVID, but I feel very confident and appreciative to the staff and students of our district and families because we've been able to manage them each as individual cases, and we have not seen spread inside our schools at this point in time. We have always, at this point, just experienced that something that has happened on the outside of school. Sometimes it's a parent that comes down with it. Maybe it's their workplace. We don't really know those things, but we're working very closely with both of our Board of Health directors, both Bruce and Kristen, and both towns. And so immediately the whole system goes into what it needs to go into. And we have a lot of systems in place to make sure that we're keeping everybody healthy. And so I think we're doing a pretty good job so far. We know that around us, cases are rising, so we're monitoring it on a daily basis and just keeping track of what we're doing inside school. Big kudos and shout out goes out to school staff who are working very well with our students and encouraging them each day to follow the protocols and also following them themselves. It's helping us to all stay healthy. So that's it for me. Yes, there was an email that I had received, and I put it in the packet just so that it was public information. But I was not unable to call this person as of yet, so I can do that moving forward.
Phil, you wanted to add something?
Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You have to unmute on your.
Yes, I'm muted, so let's unmute. Okay. There, I'm unmuted. I would like to add an addendum to the report about the Yarmouth Town Hall report. I had the advantage of having to observe precinct 5 and 6, a recent election that we held, the presidential. I was collecting ballot totals and the poll, as a poll observer, watching the poll workers, including the new town clerk, handle the onslaught of ballots of various types, watching police officers bring in mailed ballots ready to be opened up, slid open, recorded, registered, and put through the voting machines. It was a pleasure and an honor to watch a group of people who knew what they were doing, and having spent a great deal of time during the day with a huge turnout of citizens voting, continue into the night. And I would just wanted to pass along an appreciation for hard work well done. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Phil. The next item is school committee business. The first item is Diversity and Inclusion Committee. As I just mentioned, this is a subcommittee that I formed back in July. I've been trying to collect information from across Massachusetts as to other school districts that have this committee. Air, Shirley, Salem, Central Berkshire, Ashburnham, Westminster, Revere, Framingham, and Everett. So far, the only other districts that I've found that have this committee. Several of them have only recently formed and haven't done any work yet, and they don't have official charters yet, but some of them are well along in their work, and I've gotten a lot of information from the Central Berkshire Committee. They're working with an organization called Multicultural Bridge, which is an organization local to them in the Berkshires. And they are working together. They've done a book club. They have, they're working on curriculum in the district. They've done a lot of work, and I think that some of what they've done can serve as a good lesson for us, creating statements and asking everyone to take a pledge. So I'll continue on my research there. Again, the other one that has done a lot of work so far that I found is Ashburnham Westminster. They've shared with me the charter for that committee, their duties. And again, they've partnered also with some local organizations. So, I look forward to hearing more from the community about local organizations we can work with. We have 2 members of this committee appointed to it, but with Brian's upcoming resignation from the school committee, I will be replacing him on the subcommittee. I've also asked so far 2 members of the community to join the subcommittee, and they have accepted. I'll be reaching out to additional community members and staff to add to this committee and get rolling on the work. So I'm sorry it's taking me so long to get this research done. There's not a lot out there about what school committees are doing, but we are doing this work and I'm committed to it. The other item on school committee business is the consent agenda. There is a donation of 200 face masks from Mr. John Reed of the Hyannis Rotary International Club, and a donation of $100 from Kathy Douglas to the Nathaniel Wixon School Library to purchase books. We're also asking to be moved to surplus 3 metal volleyball nets at Station Ave Elementary. We have the minutes of November 2nd, 2020. Would anyone like to move the consent agenda? Brian moved, seconded by Joe. All in favor? Aye, thank you. Thank you for those generous donations. The school committee and the district, our students really appreciate these donations, especially during these challenging times. You have the calendar in your packet, bills and requisitions, informational items. There's a letter of thanks to Sandra Cashin and a letter of thanks from the Jimmy Fund Clinic to Mrs. Colgan's 6th grade class. We are going to have a public comment period, unless, Joe?
Yes, I'm sorry. I just wanted to mention one quick thing before we move on. About a year ago, we were a subcommittee, the regional agreement committee was deep into talks and negotiations to try to iron out some of the details of the regional agreement. There were a lot of those pieces.
Joe, you have to unmute on the Zoom. I'm sorry.
There are a lot of those pieces in the regional agreement committee that we wanted to put into the town meeting, but felt that we needed to take piece by piece in those most important pieces and get them passed through to move on. There's still some lingering things out there that were discussed and that some of the selectmen had some wanted to discuss further and possibly change. So I want to start thinking about getting that committee back together so we can get something possibly for the spring town meeting. And in all this discussion that we had earlier, one of the things was the recall provision for the school committee that was brought up a number of times, and we'll possibly revisit that when we get into discussions. But I just want to let people know that hasn't died, and we want to try to resurrect that to get some of the regional agreement pieces cleaned up for our school. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Our policy on public participation at meetings can be found on the table with the agenda and is also available online. The public is reminded that a school committee meeting is a meeting of a governmental body at which members of the body deliberate over public business. We welcome your attendance and appreciate your interest in viewing your school committee as we conduct our regular business meeting. The school committee believes that the school district community should have an opportunity to comment to the committee on issues that affect the school district and are within the scope of the committee's responsibilities. Some questions you may have may not be within the scope of the committee's responsibilities. In that case, I will suggest that you send or give your question in writing to the appropriate person so that your concern may be given proper consideration. Individuals may address topics on the agenda, items specified for public comment, or items within the scope of responsibility of the school committee. This is an opportunity for individuals to address the topics on the agenda. Each citizen will be allowed to speak for no more than 3 minutes. If you'd like to be recognized to speak, please raise your hand. If you're here, raise your hand physically in the audience, or you can raise your hand on the Zoom, and I will go down in order as best I can. I have allotted 45 minutes tonight for public comment. You can step up to the microphone. Yep. Please make sure you state your name. Oh, take your mask down if you don't mind.
I don't think
we're going to get that microphone.
I did prepare a very quick statement, and first I just wanted to say thank you to all of you who spoke. I do notice that someone didn't speak on racism and also sort of didn't read a complaint by a member of the community who sent one in tonight. But I thank you. So I'm a mother of a 2.5-year-old boy, and we are members of the community that the DY school committee members are tasked with representing at all times. As you may have guessed, I was here tonight to say some things that about Jill Flynn. I'm not feeling represented by Jill Flynn, and I would like the committee members to put a method in place for impeachment or recall of elected officials on this committee. It's not my responsibility to police personal politics, nor would I want to elect an echo chamber of people who all believe the same way that I believe. But what's not allowable is to use one's power and privilege, especially as a white man, and then also claim the right to be exempt from your racist words. And I think we heard from Joe that he had a friend who was a person of color, and so that he had the right to speak it on behalf of other people of color. I also just want to briefly say that we all tolerate racism every day. It's so hard to talk about it, right? And it's such a touchy subject, and especially when we hear a whole panel of white people speaking about it, it can be a little uncomfortable. I just want to say that instead of waiting for anecdotes to reach you, to hear about microaggressions that happen to people of color every day, all day, maybe if we just have a little bit more empathy, we can understand that things we don't imagine because they've never happened to us are happening to people of color all day, every day. Multiple people in their communities and white board members, etc. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak.
If you would speak loudly and into the mic. Oh, yeah, thanks.
My name is Denise Williger, and I am a teacher here at Dennis-Yarmouth at Station Avenue. I am very sorry that you guys are here tonight to hear the comments that are coming your way about what happened on social media regarding the comments by Joe Glenn. I had hoped coming tonight that he would be here, and I'm kind of wondering why he is not. And you guys are having to answer for some of this. So that is a little concerning that he's not here. I just was looking at you guys' feedback as to why he wasn't. I also wanted to say that I was alerted to these comments made white women were put on social media by this professional organization, just to put out into the public that there is someone on the school committee making these statements. I did go on to his feed. I don't belong to any of that. And it was rambling for so long, and I just gave up. But I was just kind of hoping that you guys did have the opportunity to see some of the things, the way he attempted to defend what he said was inadequate, and actually more insulting the longer he went on. So again, I apologize that you guys are here to hear this. I have been here on numerous occasions in front of this committee. I respect all of the members, and know that this is not how it is that you feel. But again, I am wondering why he is not here. And what can we do other than to wait until his position runs out? I don't want him representing this district. Thank you.
My name is Margaret Martin, and I'm a staff at DY High School. I'm a parent and a taxpayer, and I thank you all for this opportunity. I just want to be very brief and sort of general. I think that the times that we're living through, it's a bit of a cliche, but with all of these challenges, we have many opportunities, and I encourage the community to embrace the opportunities to evoke change in our communities. Part of it is education, and part of it is unlearning behaviors that have been acceptable, whether we can say that they're tolerated or not, but they happen, and they happen to too great an extent in our community. So thank you again for listening. Good night.
Hi, my name is Joanna Guerrero, and I am a resident of the town of Dennis. I just wanted to say to you guys that I really appreciate you guys speaking out and saying something about your feelings on racism. But I have to say that the words that were put out there were really troublesome to me. And I really agree with what was said before. It's disappointing that we have, you know, bodies of elected officials right now that we can't do something to fight what we see as wrong, or to feel like we're not fully represented by everybody. And I'm hoping that we can really consider something we can do or change in the rules that are there and in place right now to make it so that our voices are a little bit more heard, or we can evoke some change after the fact, because to me it's disappointing that there's nothing to feel, you know, powerless after the fact, other than being able to speak out. So, yeah, I appreciate at least you guys giving me that opportunity.
Yeah, I will get to more members of the audience as I can. I need to start calling on a couple of people who have their hands up on the Zoom. The first one, Muska Yusuf.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hold on one second. We're gonna amplify your voice.
Thank you. Can you hear me now?
One more time.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you turn yours off? Okay, go ahead.
Okay, can everybody hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening to the school committee. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak. It sounds as if there's more echo problems right now, is there?
Yes. I don't know how to fix it.
Okay, should I proceed?
Yes. Jenny, you're not muted. Okay, Muska, try that again.
Okay, how is it now?
Much better.
Okay. Good evening to the school committee. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. My name is Muska Yosef, and I'm a resident of West Yarmouth. Today, we must face some very difficult realities. A member of this committee, Mr. Joseph Glenn, has posted items on his personal Facebook page that has caused pain and worry to many members of this community. I am not referring to just one post, but many. In one post, he makes fun of Asian American names. In another post, he makes fun of people afflicted with dwarfism. In another post, he satirizes a famous World War II quote about the Nazis coming after different marginalized groups. In another post, he asked whether it would be racist for a white police officer to pull over an African American after the Governor Baker curfew. In a Facebook comment, he said all white women who grew up protected by daddy with a silver spoon never stood for anything. And in 2017, the Cape Cod Times printed an article about a post of his that included racial slurs and ethnic epithets. Now, he may try to claim that all of these are innocent jokes and all of us need to calm down and stop being so politically correct. But I'd like to remind all of you that this is a town where nooses were hung up this summer and flyers for white nationalist groups were posted on telephone poles. I'd also like to remind you that we live in the Cape Cod community that has recently seen a rise in hate crimes. A local synagogue was vandalized with swastikas. A Mashpee Wampanoag tribal bench was destroyed. KKK pamphlets were left in people's mailboxes. And the severed head of a black doll with the word N-word lover has been left on a person's lawn. So please excuse me if I don't find Mr. Glenn's posts funny. But I want to be clear, this is not about one offender. This is about an entire system that makes it so easy for a man like Mr. Glenn to stay in a position of power and so hard for the concerned citizens to do anything about it. Without a recall provision in this school committee's governing document, nothing will change. I ask that the school committee make this a top priority. I'll leave you with a quote from James Baldwin. Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. We have an opportunity today to face this wound in our society. Our children are watching. Thank you. And I also just want to mention there are a few people that sent me emails that would like their public comment read, but I'll wait on that for now.
Also on the Zoom, Christopher Flanagan, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Good evening, everyone. My name is Chris Flanagan. I live in Dennisport, and I am the Select Board Liaison to the school committee. I join you tonight as a fellow public servant and elected official. As public servants, what we say and how we say it matters, especially when it comes to racism. My hope is that the school committee member understands why people are offended by his remarks, regardless of his intent, takes ownership and apologizes for them. As far as a recall provision in the regional school agreement, I would encourage and ask the school committee to consider adding a recall amendment along with other items discussed during the last round of negotiations last year, as member Joe Tierney mentioned earlier tonight. Thank you all for your service to our community and for your comments this evening. This incident is a good reminder that we should all be good role models, both in public and on social media, particularly for our students. Thank you.
I have faced racism face to face, and I have seen friends of mine face it, and it is extremely upsetting. And those comments he makes are not funny at all. They are extremely offending, and this board, at a minimum, should at least have to realize that in one form or another. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to address the committee? Let me get one online that hasn't come yet, and then I'll come back. Someone else. Yeah, Sunny Feldman on the Zoom. Sunny Philman.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. The first, Sunny Feldman, I'm a resident of South Yarmouth. The first thing I actually want to say, I want to comment on two topics tonight. The first is remote learning. Just want to give all the teachers a big kudos. My kids are doing great. One thing that I would love to bring to your attention is my son at Station Avenue Elementary does not have a related arts program right now. I don't know if you guys are all aware of that. I know it's a lot you guys are working on your end, but it's just something I think should be offered for remote students as well. So would love to see that on your radar. Secondly is obviously the big topic tonight of racism. You know, Joe's posts, recent and historical, have really been harmful to our community. And not only what he wrote, but what he said after he wrote, you know, it got worse. It didn't get better. He had an opportunity to be accountable and to take a step back, which is really hard. You know, we're all in this together. We are all learning how to have these difficult conversations. And I'm not about cancel culture. I'm about having the conversations. But when somebody won't do that and continuously is defensive, that's a problem, because that's how he's acting in our community, and he's making decisions for our children. And as on the housing authority for, you know, people in our community every day. So I'd love to see him show up. I'd love to see a conversation happen. And I hope that that can still happen in the future. I appreciate that Brian Carey brought that up, that he, you know, should be held accountable and the discussion should be had. One thing I want to bring up is proximity, which is something that he deflected to very much and is a common thing. You know, being close to or having people of color or people, you know, in the LGBTQ community close to us does not absolve us for being accountable for what we need to, what we say. It doesn't, you know, let us off the hook for any of that. And he tries to use that a lot. So I'd love to see some accountability. But the most important thing is what Muska and Chris referred to, is we need a mechanism for removal, whether it's, you know, right now or in the future. Sadly, this is in our community, and we saw it already with the county commissioner race. We need to be able to remove somebody from office who should not be there. So I ask the committee to put that at the forefront of their work right now and make that happen as quickly and swiftly as possible. Thank you.
Marianne Miller on the Zoom.
Hi, this is Marianne. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. Hi, this is Marianne Miller. I live in Dennis. I appreciate you letting us speak, and I appreciate you addressing this issue. I'm very disappointed that Mr. Glenn is not present tonight. And I too, like many of the speakers, were very upset by his social media posts, and I'm very disappointed in what he has said since, because he certainly has made matters worse, and he clearly shows no remorse in what he posted. I just want to remind, well, everyone on the committee knows the ethics, but I was reading the Massachusetts Association of School Committees Code of Ethics, which says, remember that he or she represents the entire community at all times. So the fact that even though he posted this on his own Facebook page, it was public, and he should be representing the community at all times, whether, you know, personally or on the committee. And I really urge the committee to make the implementation of a recall provision the top priority. Thank you very much.
Is there anyone else to address the committee? You wanted to read someone else's? That's fine.
Try to get this one out more eloquently because they're not my words. This comment is from Caitlin Van Gelder, who is also, oh, yep. This comment is from Caitlin Van Gelder, who is a resident of Yarmouth Ward. My statement will be brief, as I urge the committee members to heed the comments of residents of color who have been made to feel unwelcome in our community. The DY High School handbook includes the following statements that students must agree to. Follow the guidelines of accepted behaviors within the school handbook. Use appropriate language and graphics. Swearing, vulgarity, suggestive, obscene, belligerent, harassing, threatening, or abusive language of any kind is not acceptable. Do not use school online access to make, distribute, or redistribute jokes, stories, to bully, or pass along obscene material or materials which is based on slurs or stereotypes relating to race, gender, ethnicity, nationality, religion, or sexual orientation. Students and guardians then sign a statement of responsibility that states, I have read, understand, and will follow this acceptable use policy. If I break this agreement, the consequences could include suspension of computer privileges and or disciplinary actions. If a student posted a public statement insinuating that police enforcement of a curfew would be considered racist, mocking those who have spoken out against police misconduct and brutality, and other students brought it to the attention of administration and expressed their concerns, would the school take action? Or would they follow the example of the school committee and do nothing? And if the school committee members want to assert that they have no power to do anything, then why would they not move to create a safeguard to allow them to take action in the future? I'm a Yarmouth resident and plan to remain so for many years. My daughter is currently in a private preschool, and it is stories in action like this that further push me towards keeping my daughter out of the school system. Thank you.
On the Zoom, Muska.
Hello?
Hello.
I have 2 letters from people who could not make it today. This is a letter from Alex and Laura Clark. As residents of Dennis, Massachusetts, and parents of a young child, we are disgusted by the behavior of Joe Glynn. We find his recent post on social media to be racist, offensive, and inexcusable for someone in a position that, quote, represents the entire community at all times, unquote, according to the Massachusetts Association of School Committee Code of Ethics. Mr. Glynn's post is a violation of this code of ethics. It is concerning that Mr. Glynn has not removed himself from his position. Our greatest hope is that the school committee moves to put in place safeguards today so that the public is protected in the future. The DY community should have an avenue to swiftly remove a member of the school committee who violates the ethical standards of the position. Without the ability for the community to hold school committee members accountable, the potential for future abuse is essentially limitless. It is crucial that our community does not continue down that path and corrects course immediately. And if I have time for one more from Hillary Sprague.
Yes.
Okay, to the DY School Board. Regarding online comments by Joe Glynn, I don't believe tongue-in-cheek Facebook comments, quote, asking for a friend, is a thoughtful, pragmatic way to address racial injustice, nor does it help support hardworking men and women of our local police force. This does not reflect the professionalism intellect, and compassion that I would like to see in our local leadership, nor is it the model I want to show our students when teaching responsible use of the internet. I don't expect people to be infallible. I don't want to humiliate a person over a lapse in judgment, ruin their livelihood, or discredit previous good works. But when a person is in a role of leadership, they must hold themselves to a higher standard than this, and they should be held accountable for their actions. Therefore, I support the creation of an impeachment or recall process by the school committee or any other pathway to ensure this is not permitted to happen again. Thank you.
Today. Seeing none in the audience. Seeing no hands raised on the Zoom. That would conclude our public comment period tonight. And that is all we have on the agenda for today.
And if you don't mind, for a comment, whatever reason I have a feeling that this is still unfinished business. And in many ways, I feel our public is being shortchanged because of the manner in which we are forced to hold our meetings. So with that, I ask that this item be placed on the agenda again for our next meeting, so that we can continue the discussion and allow public comment. Because part of our policy is when you read the policy of public comment is people can only address things on the agenda. I know typically we go outside of that, but I don't want that to be a loophole for any reason for someone not to be able to come to our meetings and discuss this with us. So I think it's something we need to continue. With that, I make a motion to adjourn.
Understood, and I hear your motion. Is there a second? Seconded by Joe. All in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Aye.